Hello guys, in today's video we will be solving Google Kickstart 2020 round B problem number 1. So let's look at how problem number 1 is described. So the name is bike tour. So now let's understand the problem first. So it says that Lee has a planned bike tour through mountains of Switzerland and it contains n checkpoints. So we will be having array of size n here, numbered from 1 to n. In order to visit them, the ith checkpoint has the height of I. So what they are giving the height in ith position of array element. So if array of I is given, then we can get a height of that particular point. And here is the condition: if a checkpoint is peak. So when will be the checkpoint is peak? So if it is the first checkpoint, if it is not the first checkpoint of the end checkpoint and the height of the checkpoint is strictly greater than the checkpoint immediately before it and checkpoint immediately after it. So we need to consider these two conditions while solving our problem. Now let's look at input. The input is given. The first line of input gives the number of test case as usual t, and each test case begins with a line containing an integer. The second line contains n integers. The ith integer is h. So when we look at our sample input and output, so this 4 contain is a test case, that is there will be 4 test cases and for each test case this is simple one test case, this is second test case, so this is first test case. So this is our first test case, and this is second one, and this is third one, and this is final fourth one. So what we need to output, let's see. For each test case we are the test case number starting from 1 and y is the number of peaks in Lee's bike tour. So we need to output this line with x and y. X will be our test case and y will be the number of peaks in Lee's bike tour. So we need to output the number of peaks. So how can we output how can we calculate actually peaks? So here is a condition given: a checkpoint is a peak if it is not the first checkpoint of the nth checkpoint and the height of the checkpoint is strictly greater than checkpoint immediately before and immediately after it. So if suppose we are having an array like containing checkpoint like let's see the sample array. So let's take this test case number 3. If we are having 10, 90, 20, 90 and 10 in the array, let's say here we are having here we are having 10, 10, 90, then 20. Okay, let's forget it. We will just see the sample input. So let's suppose we are having this array in okay. So we will be checking the peak. If we will check 90, how we will be going to check? We will check element immediately after it, which is 10, and immediately before it, which is 10, and immediately after it, which is 20. So 90 is greater than both 10 and 20. So we will mark 90 as a peak, and we will have a counter which will be incremented by 1 in here, and then we will check for 20. 20 is not greater than element before it, which is 90, and element after it, which is again 90. So we will not increment counter in this position. And in again we are having 90. The element before 90 is 20, and after it is 10. So 90 is another checkpoint. So we will increment the counter again 1. So we are having total peak at this position is 2, and case 3 we will be outputting this line. So let's implement this in code. Java. So in Google Kickstart, we have to give the class name as solution. It is mandatory by Google, otherwise we will not be getting correct input from judge system. Main method. First we will be initializing buffer reader. We will name it as BR. So we will name it as BR is equal to new buffered reader. Just copy and paste this. We will import this class. Import buffered import buffer reader, and we will provide input stream reader here. System.in. We'll throw exception because we can have input stream as empty, and at that situation this throws exception will handle our condition. So in first step we need to input a test case in variable called t. And we will just simply run a loop while t is greater than 0. We will do some math logic, and at the end we will decrement value of t for each test cases. Once we compute these test cases, then we will be minusing from total test cases t. So now let's look at what we have to input from sample input. So the second line contains an integer. Then we need to read this second line and corresponding element of this. So we will have integer n is equal to similarly to input this second line. So let's input in string array. Let's say array element or L1, which is line 1, is equal to dots split. So we will be having each of the number in our string array separated by space. So now we have to convert this string array into integer array, so we can manipulate them. So let's say int array, which is array is equal to new int of size n. Then we will run a for loop. Int I is equal to 0, I is less than n, and I plus plus. We will be adding array of I is equal to, now we are converting string element into integer element. So where we'll be getting from L1 of I. Here should be I. So after this step we will be having a array element, each at their position. Now just declare a variable pick, which will be the counter, and we will be incrementing this counter by 1 if we found the condition true. Initially we will say it is 0. We will be running for loop for int I is equal to 0. We will have array of 1. Let's look at the condition again. So what we are given, it is not a pick if it is first checkpoint and the n checkpoint. So we will be skipping first element and last element, that is 0 and nth element from our array. So we will start loop from I is equal to 1. I is less than n minus 1, because we have to skip the last element, and we will increment I plus plus. And for every value of I, we will be checking its previous element and its element before after it. So we will say if let's say array of I is greater than array of I minus 1, and our second condition is array of I is greater than array of if this condition is true, then we can say that the point is peak, because we are checking both condition here, the element before it and the element after it. So if this is true, we can have a value of peak incremented by 1. So we will say peak plus plus, and after running this complete loop from 1 to n minus of 1, we can print our result. So sys out case hashtag. We have to give input, we have to output as the same format as described here, just like case hashtag, the test case number, and our output. So test case number. So for counting test case number, we can have input variable, integer variable like count is equal to 0, and in every test case we can increment count by 1. This will keep track of the number of test case we are performing, and we can have plus count, and then after colon, here not colon, plus our output is in peak variable. So now let's run our code for the sample input, whether it gives our correct output or not. We are getting something wrong. Not wrong, actually we are not giving space here. So after count and colon, we have to give space actually here. So colon and then space. Now let's run this output. So yes, we are getting, I think, correct output. For case 1 we are getting 1, for case 2 0, and for case 3 2, and for case 4 0. So we are getting correct output. So now let's try to submit it on our just system. So paste our output, select our language, which is Open JDK Java